Well, the UN estimates that over 500,000 refugees have fled Ukraine, and Putin's ongoing aggression is raising serious concern about the days ahead. For reaction to all of this, we welcome former White House National Security Advisor, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, along with Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks from House Homeland Security. Welcome to you both. General, I'm going to start with you. All eyes are on the prospect of talks and some kind of diplomatic path out of this right now. General, do you see any zone of agreement that could get Russia and Ukraine at the table talking about a possible deal?
Yeah, Brian, thanks for having me. No, I really don't. Look, Putin is really using this just as a ploy. And if I was Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine, I'd probably say, let's make a deal. You remove all your forces from Ukraine, then we'll talk. I think these talks are going to go nowhere. Putin is determined to take Ukraine. He's massing his forces, continuing to move his forces. But I will tell you very candidly, Brian, he's stalled out. He is at the risk of losing this thing because the longer it goes and international pressure builds on him, he's becoming a pariah personally, and his nation's become a pariah state. And I think he's failing right now. So I don't think the talks are going to go anywhere at all.
Congresswoman, how big of a deal have the sanctions been? Are they part of the reason, to use the general's words, Putin is failing right now? Do we need to see more sanctions? Where do we go from here?
Well, certainly the sanctions are welcome. They were a little bit overdue and a little bit late. They should have been applied earlier. And, you know, having the Russian banking system out of SWIFT is an important step. I do think, as in your intro, it was our European allies who actually were more forceful than the U.S., so we lagged behind, but they're certainly welcome now. We should continue to arm Ukraine. We should continue to support allies in the region, such as Lithuania, Romania, Poland, so that they know that we will support them. And we should, you know, start engaging in reinvigorating our domestic energy production right now. If you want to lower gasoline prices because you're concerned that all of this turmoil is increasing gasoline prices and enriching Russia, one way to do that is with domestic energy production. And then don't buy any oil or gas from Russia. The shipments coming next week should be halted, and we should not receive them.
General, whether you're talking about negotiations or sanctions, everything depends on how the person on the other side of the table receives it and their mindset state. Yeah. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice delivered a very grim warning on Fox News Sunday about Putin's mental state. Take a listen to this, General.
Well, I met with him many times, and this is a different Putin. He was always, as Senator Rubio said, this was an ex-KGB man. He was always calculating and cold. But this is different. He seems erratic. He's descending into something that I personally haven't seen before.
Okay, General, erratic, descending into something we haven't seen before. What does that mean in terms of how the path could play out here?
Well, look, Brian, it's a very accurate statement. Look, I was on 18 different phone calls with Putin when President Trump was in the White House, and I actually met him in Singapore with Vice President Pence, and he was nothing like he is today. And I think it's either COVID got him or he's isolated. I don't know what it is, but he's sure not the same person that I remember for 4 years in the White House. And when you become erratic like that, or you become very isolated, you have to watch what they're going to do and lash out. I don't know if you saw that picture this weekend of him talking to his two defense officials, Shoigu, his defense minister, and also Gerasimov, basically his chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Their faces were very, very grim. And you just look at it and you go, boy, something's just not clicking. Something's not right. And because of that, you get very concerned about potential erratic behavior. And I think we should be worried about that.
General, just a quick follow-up on that. How much of strategy has to be based on dealing with a rational actor? In other words, when you're making military strategy and diplomatic strategy, negotiation strategy, do you bake in the possibility that the person across the table is just straight up erratic or crazy? How do you deal with that?
Well, you know, that's a great question, Brian. Look, by invading, he proved he's erratic because he invaded Ukraine, which makes no sense to me at all. But if you're a good advisor and a good strategist, you plan for things like this to happen. You make the bet that the person across from you is in fact erratic and is in fact making irrational decisions. And he's done that. He's proven it. I mean, it made no sense for him to go into Ukraine like he did it.
Congresswoman, briefly, President Zelensky has said, we want to be part of the EU. He has signed documents to that effect. In fact, he's received some invitations, it seems to be, to that effect. Is that a possibility? Could we actually see something like that happen?
I think certainly other European allies seem to be more receptive to admitting Ukraine. Also, Ukraine has one of the highest troop forces in the European Union, and we know that under President Trump, he wanted the European Union to take more concern and pay its dues in NATO and be concerned about its own security. I think that they're seeing the folly of, letting their defenses go with Russia's aggression, regardless of the mental status of Vladimir Putin. He's a thug. He violated international treaties. He violated international accords, and he needs to be held accountable. And we need to stay strong and be allied with Ukraine.
Yeah, don't yoke yourself to a dictator. I think that's the lesson of the day. We got to leave it there. General Congresswoman